And I can tell you today, the attention of the athletes on the product side is really limited on what they're feeling. They don't go deeply to understand what's happening inside a new technology, a new solution. Sometimes even the coaches, right? This is a lack that we need to cover in some way as the brands that do running shoes. To make more information because it can help the athletes and the coaches to avoid problems or injuries.
Welcome to Long Run Labs, a weekly podcast from the team behind For the Long Run, telling the stories of those running the outdoor industry where endurance and entrepreneurship meet. I want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this episode, Sketch. I use Sketch every single day. It's how I schedule almost every meeting in my life. Sales calls, podcast recordings, intro chats, follow-ups, all of it. And the thing that really sold me is what happens after something changes. If someone needs to move a meeting, Sketch just handles it. It finds a new time that works for both of us, updates the calendar, and I usually don't even have to think about it. No email chains for me. No, sorry, that time no longer works. No back and forth. If your week involves talking to other people, Sketch gives you hours of your life back every week. It's not just a booking link, though they do have that too. It's a system that protects your time and keeps things moving without friction. I'm partnering with them on Long Run Labs because I genuinely use it and because it feels like infrastructure for modern work. And I want everyone else to use it too, because when you use it, it already knows your availability and we can book a meeting faster. Check out sketch.com/longrunlabs for a very special offer so you can give it a try and add time back to your work week. That's skej.com/longrunlabs. All right, welcome back. We have Gelindo Bordin joining us from Italy. Gelindo, I hope I did you justice with the pronunciation of your name there, but maybe let's hear it from you.
No, my name is perfect. Yeah. You pronounce perfect. Gelindo Bordin. So it's quite easy, let's say.
Awesome. Well, Gelindo, the first question of this podcast is always a tough one. And that question is, who is Gelindo?
I'm today a director in Diadora. So I'm working with this Italian company. On the past, I was a runner, being professional since I was 24, a little bit late. Before that, I was running, I also making a home designer. So building construction in Verona. After my first marathon that was in Milan, I won that with the 2013 as a home designer. So I decided to try to race in the international level. In 85, I did the World Cup. And in 2010, so probably I discovered that it was better to try to be a professional runner. And so I changed all my career. And already in 1986, I won the European Championship. 1987, I won the bronze medal at the World Championship in Rome. Then I won the Olympics in 88. Little bad time in 89, but anyway, I was able to compete in New York because I get a pneumonia in August, so I didn't have much time to train. But anyway, I ended third in New York Marathon with 2:09. And that was a nice bridge between the Olympics and the Boston Marathon 1990 because it was my next focus. And so I won the Boston Marathon and being the first Olympic champion and the only one today that I was able to win both the Olympic and the Boston Marathon. And then I repeated my gold medal at European Championships also in the 90s. After that, my second try at the Olympic Games in Barcelona, I broke the meniscus during the race for an accident. So I get a chance to be young and to try to join the real world. So I started to work with Diadora in 1994. Diadora was my first sponsor. I joined Diadora a long time ago. It was in 1976 as a young runner. And, I built a kind of relationship with the brand, even if in a period I moved to ASICS as a sponsorship, but then the relationship with the brand was still very strong, and I keep all my good feeling with this brand all through the changes that the brand has done, the company has done during this year, this long period.
That is quite a wonderful background. I often talk to people who have a really strong running background or a really strong business background, and it's cool to be able to dive into this with you where you have, nobody's done what you've done, and now you're doing it on the brand side. So let's spend a little more time on the running side of your life, and then we'll dive into the brand side. When did running enter your life, or how did running find you?
It was occasionally, as Italian, I was a soccer player, and I was playing on the defense at the beginning. Then I became a goalkeeper. I was very frustrated. That's the process. Then you drive you into the referee, because you move from the midfield to the backpack, and then the goalkeeper. That's just a joke. But then one day when I was something like 12, in the school, we have a physical educational lessons, and nobody carried the sports stuff because it was raining outside. So the teacher at that time say, okay, nobody has the sport product. So today you're going to run 2 laps of 4 soccer field under the rain wearing a normal clothing. And that was the day that I discovered I was a runner, because in 2 laps, I win for 1 lap. So I was running double speed on anybody, and already became, a kind of heroes in the school. And then I moved fast to the official races because I won the regional cross-country championship, beating the Italian championship in cross-country all my age. I was very young at that time, again, 12, 13. And from there, I keep the passion of running because the result in one side. Then in 1976, I became the Italian champion on 12 kilometers. That was the longest distance for that age. Let's say I have a lot of problems during my running career. That's why I say never give up, because one day it come back. I get a problem on my knee because I have a double bone on my knee, on the right knee. So the one doctor stopping me, the other one say, no, keep running because you molded the bone on the right way. And then at the junior level, so under 20, I was the best Italian cross country. Beginning of when I was 21, I became the number 3 senior in Italy on cross country, number 3 on 10 kilometer on track, so on 10K. And then I went to Mexico City for the first experience on altitude training. And then I catch a virus. When I came back, they couldn't solve the problem. So for 1 year, I couldn't run. So I started to work as a home designer, forget it by running, and I started even smoking. I was working with a home construction area building, so it was quite stupid thing, but anyway, it happened. And then one day I say, why you don't come back and try to run again? So after 1 year, I started training again, and a car crashed my back. And I was just 22. I recovered from there, and then luckily enough that the bad thing started to happen. And that was in 1983. Then in 1984, I won my first marathon. I was anyway very good cross-country runner, but I couldn't run the track because of my Achilles. So that's why I moved on the road. And starting from 1984, I started my experience on the marathon and on the road racing. And then career was my 5 years, 86, 87, 88, 89, and 90 was my period.
You ran some fast times back then, and I'm curious what the difference you see from being a sponsored athlete in the 80s and 90s versus today, and specifically because you're working at a shoe brand that's sponsoring athletes. Talk to us about the experience of being a professional athlete and the focus that the brand had for you back then compared to now, when there are so many social media obligations and Instagram is a huge part of it. Was it all about performance?
Not at all. About 100% was easier. It was easier because competition, that means big competition, was happening every 4 years. The World Championship was every 4 years. European Championship, so the Regional Championship, was every 4 years. The Olympic Games every 4 years. Today, everything is running very fast. You have a double appointment every single year, and probably that's a little bit too much. And social media make it very fast. So today, I don't want to say that 50% is a link to the, sometimes even more, to the social media activity with the athletes, 50% to the performance. My time, you get a less chance to be visible, But at the end of the story, through the TV to the newspaper, just because the event, every single year you have one big event. So that event, the coverage of the event was very high, and it lasts. It lasts for at least 1 year. Today is like when you go to eat, when I was young, you sit down and have your lunch, a couple hour lunch. Today you do lunch in 15 minutes, and the life is like that. That's why every single moment today must be covered on the best ways possible. And it doesn't mean that today, sure, if you are very good on the social media, nice looking, probably you can earn more money because you can create your own business, let's say, almost even during your sport career. But at the same time, that's something that can be a little bit distracting. There is too much thing going on, and I don't know how much it lasts in the mind of the consumer. I don't know how much it lasts in the mind of the follower. What you are doing to compare with what's happening when I was young, when I was a runner. Honestly, I can see comparison. I was an Olympic champion in the marathon. I won Boston, and after 40 years, still people recognize me on the road, even if I have a white hair. Today, on Tokyo Olympic Games, for the first time, an Italian won the 100 meter. And because all these events, what's happened after that, I don't say that the people forget it, but it's not really lasting like in my period, because we are eating everything too fast today. And so for the brand, it's even more difficult to manage a sponsorship contract, to manage the athletes, and you need to be sure that everything is done at the correct time when it's possible. You need to, anyway, to balance with the effort that the athlete has to put on the training area. And, sometimes you need to be really focused on the racing and everything. So I think from how I am today is much more complicated.
It's interesting you specifically called out the fact that you're still getting recognized. You won Boston 35 years ago. You won the Olympics shortly before that, versus the 100-meter runner from Italy not getting the fanfare, like similar level of fanfare. How do we help recreate that? How does the brand help to do that? What's the role that you're hoping to share or provide to these athletes in creating that legacy? And I ask that because, it's beneficial for the brand to have that lasting impact as well as the athlete.
Yeah, I was talking with the young athletes, even with the Marco. Marco Langon was coming over here. I spoke with them. I think athletes or anybody that do sport at the high level, we have a gift. We have a gift, and we have a period that we can bring that gift inside the real life. Because, the sport life is a period, is not totally real, because you live in something like a glass bowl that is different with a normal life. So you have the chance to create a relationship. You have the chance to create expertise, but you need to invest. You need to invest time. For example, when I was younger, I was really passionate about product development. I was asking to the technician what they do on the shoes. It's just an example. When I won the first Italian championship, I make my own the shorts, because that time the shorts was not so comfortable. So I make the short my own, just try to understand what are the best comfortable shorts to run a long distance. Just to make an example. So invest time to understand about product, because they're using the product. And I can tell you today, the attention of the athletes on the product side is really limited on what they're feeling. They don't go deeply to understand what's happening inside a new technology, a new solution. Sometimes even the coaches, right? This is a lack that we need to cover in some way as a brands that do running shoes, to make more information because it can help the athletes and the coaches to avoid problems or injuries. That was the moment where really I created my expertise. And then when you are on the top of a pyramid, be available for the market. So I get the chance that time to meet a lot of running shops, a lot of people that was really much into the expertise of the running product, and I learned a lot. On your life, you never finish to learn. But there is a time where you have time and you can do it in a much more deeper way. Then, honestly, it was easy to come and to start to work into a brand. But at the beginning, remember, even if you are an Olympic champion, you start to work into a company, you need to be really humble because you have people that have studied to do that job. So you need to show the capability also to manage a business or to work inside a team, especially if you're doing this sport like I'm doing that I was an individual sport.
It's a great point. I've talked to a handful of athletes, Noah Droddy, Scott Fauble come to mind. Ironically, they've run like quite similar times to you in the marathon. And we talked through their transition into the business world. And like you said, they were humbled quickly. But what I said to Scott in particular, sometimes there's this thought that like, hey, I've been doing sport my whole life. Like, what are my other skills? And I was like, you can do anything that's a repeatable process, right? You are better than everyone else, or you're better than so many other people at doing a thing and getting really good at it. What was that process like for you where, you were doing something new and you're doing it still and you're doing it at a high level now as well?
Yeah, at the beginning, come clear inside my mind that you have to forget that you're a runner that's able to run 2:08 time or 2 hours today because the consumer are not that level. Maybe you have to deal with the athletes like I'm doing now that work at that speed. But when you think about the consumer, you need to understand that all your experience must be transferred to the different speed, to the different weight, to the different training volume. If you are able, working with your colleague, understanding with a team, how you can really use your experience, transfer it to the lower speed. For example, at the beginning when I was trying the product, every single new product I'm testing today. Today's easy because I'm quite slow, so it's easy, and I'm a little bit overweight. Not overweight, but to compare when
Sure.
of my weight when I was
You're not winning golds, yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple of 20 kilograms more. So you're very much closer to the consumer, so you understand really the feeling with the product much better. So at the beginning was important to understand that you are doing product for the consumer that are not only top runners. And you need to adjust your experience and your feeling to the feeling, try to understand the feeling that the consumer need to have and the protection or the technology you need to develop for that kind of consumer.
I spent the last few years working with Puma as they got back into the US running market. They had a specific focus between the pointy high end of the sport, running, low 2 hours, and for the women, the two teens and 20s. And you go to a shakeout run at a marathon and you have people that are, happy to run 4 and 5 hours in the marathon. How do you focus on both of those places, and knowing that the majority of dollars in for the brand are coming from those 4 and 5 and 6 hour marathons, but you need that validation from the front of the pack to show that like this shoe works?
Yeah, you need to have both. 100% when you do advanced research or innovation on technology, sometimes it's difficult to keep the focus on both sides. So 100% need to have the faster sprinter shoe, I need to have the faster long jump shoes, I need to have the faster marathon shoes, or try to do it at the end of the story. Then you need to adapt that concept and that technologies to the guy that run 5 hours in the marathon. It's not the same thing. Just to make a more technical example, when we work on compound to make the shoes, specific shoes for marathon for the guy that run 5 hours and then the guy that run 2 hours, we have a different compound. We use different compound as a company because we have this philosophy that for us, every single consumer, we treat like a top runner. So we have a specific compound for top runners because the frequency of the energy return, I need to follow the frequency or the speed of the top runners. The frequency of the compound, that means the energy return of the compound for the guy that run 4 hours, 5 hours, and the frequency to be lower. Otherwise, the technology is not working at the same speed. Just to make an example and how we work in that time. Sure, we transfer information for top runners, top athletes, because with them we can really try to reach the peak of the innovation, but at the same time we have also in mind every single day that then that technology need to be in some way adapted to the normal consumer. That's why, for example, we have 5 different technologies inside our running range. That is not common. 5 different compounds that work on a different way. It depends on the quality you have.
What's more traditional for a brand? Are they working with 2 different compounds?
Yes, and I can tell you it's not enough.
How did that learning, or how come you guys are doing it differently?
It's from the history of the brand. This brand was quite innovating on the 70s. It was the first brand that, it was the first company that make the brand with a sponsorship, sponsoring Brion Borg. There's a legend that say that the cost of a Brion was double of the turnover of the company. But they risk everything on that. And from that point, the passion and the family that is following the brand, today still Diadora is under the family, so it's much more easy to deal with that. We have a manager, but at the same time, the owner have the passion. So you can see the passion of the owner when they see top artists wearing his own brand. And so the focus was always the person. It was a human-oriented brand from the beginning. So we try to help athletes, Marco Van Basten, Roberto Baggio with the injuries problem. I know that that name came from a long time ago, but I started to work with them, so I was very happy to do that also. And the focus of the company, the mission of the company is that every single day we have to think how we can develop the best product for the best performance of the athletes. When the running market became popular, let's say mid of 80s, more than that, beginning of the 90s, so the company has to decide where they want to stay. You want to stay just with the top runners, or you need to understand what's happening also with the normal runners? Because when you start to have 30, 25, 30, 50,000 people running, you cannot expect that everybody's running 2 hours, as you say. So, and you need to start to study the movement, the consumer, changing your testing athletes, having both top runners and also normal runners to understand and to have the feedback that is coming. Sometimes not easy, like you say, because you need to testify the quality of your product with the top runners, but we keep pushing. We have our mission that is developing specific product for specific need and for specific consumer. We keep our mission in our mind and try to make understand the consumer that product that is used by a runner that run 2 hours, it cannot be suitable for you if you're running 5 hours. In some way, it must be tricky.
Definitely. So you referenced it there again. You've been a part of 2 running booms, the 80s and 90s as an athlete. And now, coming out of the pandemic, we're seeing participation at levels we've never seen before. And it's the, trendy thing to pick up a pair of running shoes and go run a marathon. And here in the States, your marathon time or the fact that you're running a marathon is kind of like a status symbol of health. And like, hey, I'm doing this thing that is hard, and I'm choosing to do it, and it's making me better. Talk to me about the advantage that you have having the background and the history of seeing what you saw in the 80s and 90s with the growth and explosion of running then, and how you're bringing the knowledge of, Running Boom 2.0 or 3.0 to Diadora and to the market in 2026.
The history is always helping the people, right? So I'm lucky enough that I was growing in a period where the running shoe wasn't running shoes. So very low drop. All my generation have Achilles problems, a lot of surgery. And then I been crossed the 80s and the 90s where the brand and companies start to understand that they need to create product that protect, especially when you do your long run, right? So we come with a higher drop. We have a brand that move also from 0 to 14 millimeter drop to make the recovery time, right? To recover the muscle, the back muscle. Then in the 90s, stable product was so popular, especially in North Europe and US, that was more or less 80% of the market. Today, change everything. Today, in my opinion, there is too much focus on the pure performance. Everybody is talking, is promoting the carbon plate, the fast shoes, because probably we make a big change from the beginning of 2000 up to today, that all the research was to do how we can do the fastest shoes. But what about the protection? What about the needs or avoid injuries for the athletes? The most important thing for the athletes, do not stop for a long time because you injure your Achilles or your muscle and anything. And that's, we forgot a little bit. But as a company, not just because I'm here, but I'm stressing the people and say runners still need product that in some way give it the right protection. It depends on how you are, on the way you run. But at the same time, we need to keep the focus also that the protection, that means cushioning or stability, it depends, are still a big part of the game. If you want to training, do not stop, because you can have the fastest shoes in the world, but at the end of the story, if you prepare your marathon, you stop for 2 months, you don't reach your peak. There is no question. And today, I think, let's say but at the end of the story, we are trying to focus on that. The market is forgetting this stuff. I see, especially on the social media, everybody is thinking about reactivity, speed, the carbon plate, how fast you can run. And there is a very, very, very low focus on how you can support athletes avoiding injuries. The break was too fast, in my opinion.
It's a great point. When we first saw the popularity of carbon plates in the mid 2010 or mid to late 2010s, it was really spearheaded by Nike. And all of a sudden you saw particularly the women on the Bowerman team with knee and lower leg injuries popping up at levels that were just not common, or we hadn't seen it before. So it's this balance of the shoe helps you go faster, but it can't do that, at the trade-off of risk reward.
Yeah, that's true. At the beginning, the first brand that make the carbon plate on the running shoe wasn't Nike, was an Italian brand. As it was the beginning of 2000, was with a different concept. Anyway, the concept started to come out with the idea to have a fast product. That's why I say sometimes we need to create more information. What the carbon plate is doing, how the carbon plate influence your style, how the carbon plate going to manage the energy and that you put to your muscle, how your muscle react, how your foot react, having stiff product. They react totally different with a flexing product. And if you understand that this kind of product can create problem, you understand that you can use every single day. You need to have a specific product for the fast workout that doesn't have the carbon. And I have the biggest experience I make with the sprinter. The sprinter really ask to have the product for training that do not have the carbon plate because they need to recover it. And now people start to understand because injury is coming, even more frequency. We are not yet at the total moment. That's why when we ask to our partners on the research center outside the company, the first thing we asked them was to start to understand the number of injuries where they need to come out, to have a little bit of history of that. And you need to have 3 or 4 years to understand what's happened. And then we need to give information. The brand need to give a real information to the consumer what's happened. I understand the pushing of the emotion of fast shoes, the emotion that a runner can have with their product. But at the same time, we need to really give much more information to the market regarding that point.
While we're still on the technical aspect of running, I want to pick your brain a little bit more on something you said about the consistency piece being one of the most important ways to get better. I think a lot of people are really focused on, I'm going to go do this thing, then I'm going to go do that thing. And why isn't my marathon time getting faster in the meantime? And as someone who's competed at the highest level and been the best in the world, can you talk a little bit more about why consistency is one of the most important components of success and performance?
100% you're right. Consistency is the number one fact. You can have the shoes is not going to do everything. It can help you, but it cannot do everything. So consistency in training is very important. Give your body, your muscle, the time to change. And that's for young athletes and top runners, and the same thing is for the people that want to run a marathon because they just like to run. Give the time to your body to adapt at the new situation. Consistency on product development from company is also very important, because if you change every single season, if you change every single moment, the direction and the product and the drop and the technology you're using, your consumer that must change every time they start the run. So it creates some problem. So consistency is very important from the runners. It's very important for the athletes in general. And consistency, I think, is also very important for the brand, because it takes time to adapt to the new technology, to adapt our body. And what is nice is you can improve products step by step. So at the same time, your consumer, if we change the product step by step. There is a nice sentence. If you go anywhere on the internet, I find that on the internet. Our muscle takes time to adapt. And I was just looking into the low drop or high drop. They make a different style, you land in a different way on your product. And if today you're using high drop, you want to go on the low drop, it takes time for your body to adapt on that. Because with a high drop, you make work some muscle. With a low drop, you make to work other muscle. And you need to have time to make this transition. That's why consistency is very important. Never change drastically the things. It's very important to me.
The parallel between the role of consistency in running and sport and the parallel of consistency and the importance of consistency in business is something that people don't realize at first, but once it kind of clicks, it really hits home. At what point did you realize that your running career could be really beneficial for the ability to be a durable and successful employee at a business?
Yeah, I think that being an athlete, you understand. You understand that daily work, double daily work, is what it really means. And for your brain, repeat things is very important to make your body understand and learn. That's why athletes normally they start and they repeat more or less year by year the same kind of workout, because your body needs time to learn that, and then you make it easy. And that's consistency, that's a capability, especially because I was a marathon runner. That capability or have a time to wait, the success is the most important thing. Because if you change your road every single day, you change direction every single day, even the business is not working. We have an example of brand that invested 3 years, 4 years, come into the running market, not succeeding like the business they develop on the lifestyle, and then they churn. And then they come back, and then they churn, and then they come back. And the same thing is with the technology. And you can really see consistency brand that is there from ever, and is still there on the top 3 or 4 leader in the market, because that's the way to work, especially in this business. Because I'm always telling to people that sell running shoes, even the apparel, that remember, it's our mission to try to give the best products possible to the consumer, because the only tool they have to protect them or to run fast. And we need to keep in mind this.
If you want to go deeper into the conversations we're having here, subscribe to the Long Run Labs Substack at longrunlabs.substack.com. We share insights, stories, and tools to help you go further in running, business, and life. Quick heads up, if you want to support the show, we've got paid subscriptions at $8 a month or $96 for the year. If you go annual, you'll get a For the Long Run hat while they last, plus some goodies from our partners. It helps us invest in higher quality production and rely less on ads so we can keep the show focused on the conversations you care about. Check it out at forthelong.run/subscribe, and thanks for listening. So much of the point of marketing is to deliver the thought of the best version of yourself, right? When I buy something, I want to buy a better version of myself. I want whatever I'm buying to help me improve whatever I'm doing, whether it's my lawn, whether it's my running, whether it's my kitchen. Like, I'm not buying something to get worse. I'm buying something something to get better. In the pursuit of that, how does Diadora and how do you think about brand marketing? So the storytelling, the PR, we got connected from outside PR, who is your agency of record on the earned media side of things. How does all that play a role in the storytelling and how you go to market?
No, we try to position ourselves as the size the brand we are. We took the decision to have a distribution of product just with the running specialty. For one reason, they are 100% the best expert to suggest the product to the consumer. Because you can have the best product in the world, but if somebody then is not going to suggest the right product to the right consumer, doesn't work. So that was the first decision we took, and it was a strong decision. Working with the partners that are able really to explain the product and try to give the right product to the consumer inside our offering, inside our collection. That was a first thing in terms of distribution. In terms of brand positioning, we are living on the very high level of technology evolution area that is in Montebelluna for sport industry. And we are lucky that we were able to build inside the company in 100 meters we have our research center, we have our design and development product, and we can build because we have our factory inside the company. So we can do everything and very fast. Well, the positioning is an Italian innovation focus on the human. It's not the message we want to try to send on the market that we are really close to runner. We care about them in all the process and even selecting the customer. And we try to do every single day our best for them. And this, the opportunity we have is, okay, we are Italian, so we are the only running brand in the market. Today, we are 360 Italian, so lucky enough they can do that. And then we focus the way we build our product, keeping everything in-house. So to be sure that our athletes come over here, our consumer come over here, we tested them, we change the product, all the process is linked to the message that our technology innovation is focused on human. It's not just focused on the pure performance area.
What are the challenges of being an Italian brand with a focus in the US? We've seen tariffs, we've seen differences in positioning, we've seen all the crazy things going on in this country. What challenges but also opportunities exist?
It's very challenging because you are on the mouth of the wolf in some time, because the biggest market, everybody want to play bigger roles over there. Right. But the angle with my colleague over there in US was really clear. Give the opportunity, respecting the consumer, giving the opportunity to the running market to have a brand that is just for them. We don't want to be online brand because we are selling online, but at the same time we are sharing our profit on the online. Because at the end of the story, who is promoting the brand now is our customer, our retailer. And they are promoting the brand, I think, on the right way, because they are more you are selective on product choice with the consumer and better answer you will have for the consumer. I always tell to the people over here, every single shoes that is bad suggested is a paying for the brand. Every good shoes, every nice choice is a very healthy and helpful. Sure, it will work on time. It will be now fast, but that concept help us to have the chance over there in the US. There is a big opportunity being an Italian brand because at the end of the story, we are unique because we are the only one. We have a different philosophy. We will not want to be the billionaire brand in running, keeping the focus on the core running, keeping the focus now on the athletes, treating the consumer as the athletes. And it seems easy, but it's not. For a brand and for a company, do not allow you to enlarge on the fast way the business is not an easy choice. So we are lucky because the owner understands this. He want to go in that direction. We have time to do it, and we have time to do it the right way. Sure, we can do it because we are medium sized company. We are not a big company, and that's our is a big challenge, but there is a big opportunity for us to work on the different way.
I want to go back to something you were saying earlier, but also continuing down this path. You talk about being focused in different areas or choosing to do different things. And sometimes that's a trap and sometimes it's an opportunity. We're seeing a lot of investment in trail lately, particularly from brands that are outside of the US coming into the US, deciding trail as a focus. We see Norda out of Canada, we see Mount to Coast out of China, we see Kipron out of France. They're choosing to, and these are not, for many of them are not, new brands. Kipron is under Decathlon. For those who aren't familiar, it's a $16 billion a year company. It's not, it's a challenger brand, but it's not new. Why do you think trail has gotten such a focus in the US in particular as of late?
Yeah, they have a big force in Europe as well, especially in France. France, the trail running is about 35% of the business. That is different from US and from Italy as well, from Germany. That's 10%, 8%, depends, right? So in France, it's very common. A lot of brand influence from that region. They focus on trade. Obviously, we are doing some trade shoes, but it's not really the focus for us because at the end of the story, I don't think you can do everything on the best ways possible. There are brands, even from my area, that they're really focusing on offering the full range of trade product. Yeah, from the beginner, then from the people that do racing and everything. So still is a portion of the business. Is in some countries they're also very big, but then at the end of the story, it makes the competition very, very hard. To be, every brand is doing their own trade shoes. You have also the typical running brand. They have a small offer on the trade product. That is normally more training shoes for outdoor, right? They are not so specific for the hiking or that kind of extreme activity on the mountain. In some area, the business is very high. Sometimes it became also popular as a fashion shoe. Now Europe, I don't know, in the US, it could be different country by country. Probably is growing. I don't think today it must be a focus for our brand. We still have a lot of things to do on road. We still have a lot of things to do on track. If we want to go back over there, be visible, and there is still a lot of space to come out with a technology evolution that really needs something for the consumer.
How do you hold yourself and the brand accountable for that focus when we see other brands that are attempting to go deeper with their consumers? Tracksmith is an example. They grew up as a road and track brand out of Boston, and they make that product for a very specific type of consumer. And then they chose to go into trail. And I've shared my thoughts broadly on how I feel about what they did, which in my opinion, they attempted to be perceived as a very serious trail brand instead of a brand for road runners who are interested in going into trail. And I think that they really botched the messaging, and their launch was the first things you saw about that launch were in Boston, indoors or on pavement. And that would have been really good for a brand that's saying, hey, you trust us for road running, come trust us for trail running. Let's make this bridge with you. But that wasn't the attempt. And so I think there's a lot of risk or a lot of downside to attempting to be something that you're not. But at the same time, as you talked about, the category is growing and the opportunity is there. And it's a way to bring new customers in and potentially introduce them to your core business. So on your side, how do you stay focused? How do you hold yourself and the team accountable for following your own North Star?
I think the answer is quite easy. We are the size of the company that can do that. We still have the space to grow on the direction we took a few years ago. And as you say, consistency is always paying back. Today, to speed up a process of growing, try to catch in everything, I think is not the right way. If you're a marathon runner, you need to be a marathon runner. I make some examples sometimes with the athletes. We have a creep over here. There's very strong athletes. And then at the beginning, moved to marathon, he ran good time. Then he came back to 10K, then he came back to 5. Then he came back to half a marathon, and then he have a couple of years very bad. Stay focused. If you want to be a marathon runner, there are runners that can do everything, but there are very few you can count on the finger of your hand, right? On the history. Stay focused. You want to run 10K, you must run the 10K and do your best over there. And especially if you want to move the long distance, keeping the focus, keeping consistency. And the same thing I think is for the brand. Like changing your positioning, your focus. Sometimes it's difficult to make the consumer understand where you want to go. Sure, if I have a consumer that love me, I have an offer on trade shoes. If you really want to buy that shoes, but I'm not telling that I have the best performing racing shoes for the trade. I'm not, because you need to keep the focus. Otherwise, as you say, sometimes you lost what you have.
How does the size and funding of a company play a factor in that decision process, right? If you have a bunch of investors who are looking for returns versus you have a family-owned business who wants steady but reliable growth and a healthy business, like those two are very different organizations. How do you think about that difference?
That is crucial. If you have an investor, they look for tomorrow. They don't look for the next years, and that doesn't help. We are lucky enough that we have a family that invests in the brand. They want to build the brand that area. They want to build a high performance brand, not just in running. We do also tennis. We have our history in soccer, but running now is the focus. Let's say 90% of our investment is in this category and is in the road running area. From racing shoes, we develop track spike because our athletes run on the road, run on the track, but the message is very focused on that. 90% of our time, investment, and everything is in doing that area to be consistent. And you're right, we are lucky because there is nobody waiting us as a manager to bring a high result and high performance tomorrow.
How does that influence your ability to make those decisions for the long run? And I asked that, I did a podcast with a friend who bought a shoe company in San Francisco. And so he works at NVIDIA. He's been there since 2019 and he doesn't need the shoe store that's not how he puts food on the table. And he's set, right? So he can make decisions that are good for the community. And we reflected on this in the podcast we did at the beginning of the year. And I was like, look, this is going to put you in a better place for the shoe store. Like, even if you were focused on maximizing growth, because you're doing it for all the right reasons, you're bringing people in, you're not trying to squeeze their wallets. Like, have you thought about the impact that being focused on the long term has both in the short and long term?
Speaking about long term is always scary, need to be. Let's say medium term.
Sure.
even we have example of brand that became popular on the 70s. They're still popular in this area. They have a bad period. They have a good period in terms of business, but they're still over there. So, in my opinion, you have time for sure. You have something for a short period. When you do innovation, for example, technology innovation, you need to come out every, couple of years with something new. Because you need to follow the market. All the innovation now is running so fast that every single day there is something changed. So you need to be fast in that. But fast on that, keep in mind that you have time. You have a medium period to build your business on the correct way. Does 100% mean that it will work? I don't know, honestly, but I think it's the most safety way. When you have an expert inside the company, you're talking about the possibility of the person to bring something to the market. I think the most important thing is that working with the team and make your team grow. From the experience of everybody can really come out something very important. I think the most a powerful thing that Diadora has, that we listen. When you listen, you learn. And if you don't learn, you will never be on the top. It's the story of athletes, it's the story of the business.
I love that. When you listen, you learn. It's critical for brands to understand what their consumers are saying, what the market is saying, particularly from people who are actually buying from you. There's a challenge in distinguishing signal versus noise, right? If people are yapping on social media, but they're not actually buying your product, and they never would, they don't need to be listened to. If they would buy it, but they're not, that's signal. Or if your customers are telling you something, that's signal versus noise. How do you distinguish from what needs to be listened to versus what's just white noise?
Easy. The best way to understand what is good to be listened or what is not is always the final opinion of the consumer. And the best way to do it is to put your knee on the floor and making the people try the shoes. You have to make the people try the shoes because you can see from their face at the beginning if what you are doing is correct or not. If you are not doing that, especially people that work on product, that we never go really and try inside the shops or on the marathon fair to make it the people, to help the people try your shoes and understanding from them the first reaction is difficult to learn. If you do that, I'm doing that every single day because I like it. I like to see the reaction of my advice to the consumer if I'm right or not. And I can tell you, I learn every single day. And if you do that, you cannot miss the message. Because if you see them telling you something at that moment, is 100% that is something that they need. Then there is another story, leasing retailer. I think it's important. But it's a little bit less important to compare with what you can learn from the consumer because there is the influence, new brand coming, new product coming. So even the retailer cannot really try every single product and testify. To me, the message that you need to take care is the message that is coming from the final consumer and make your product guy to go over there and make the shoes right from the consumer.
What role do shoe reviewers and influencers and people like that play in all of this for you?
That scares me. I mean, if my face was really clear, but I can make an example. It scares me because everybody can do it, right? With the background, with the running background and everything. But the wrong message that some of that influencers are making in the market, that when they try the carbon plate shoes, they squeeze it, the shoes, they flex the shoes, and then the shoes jump, right? That's not what the carbon plate is doing. The carbon plate need to make the shoe stiff in order to make the longer lever when you're taking off, you have a much more energy to transfer from the takeoff moment to the ankle and the calf muscle. That's the secret of the carbon plate. And if it flexes very much, it doesn't work. Just to make an example, that is the wrong message that you send to the consumer.
Yeah, you see it constantly. Yeah.
You see, I can see that something shoes. I say, we make the carbon plate to make it stiff.
I see it like once a week. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Can you see that movement doing by an athlete or runner? No, even never. That's what scares me. There are some that are very good. They are very professional. They know what they do. Also, they say the truth. You can see that then they don't have influence from brands. And that's what I like. Sometimes they speak good about Diadora. Sometimes they speak if we have some problem. And the same thing they do with all the brands. Finally, if I can send a message to the consumer, you have the possibility to go inside a shop where they really focus on you because you are their own business. So when you go inside some shops, they will take care about you. They 100% they will try to give you the best advice possible. Don't do it through the website. There's no touch. There's no human touch. It can be important product like the running shoes or the running apparel. That means I call the running tools. It cannot be treated through a website, especially the innovation area. You need to go inside the shop. You need to have people that keep you as an important element in his own business, his own life. and working with him, try to have the best.
I totally agree. I think that one of the best ways to approach growth in running is through partnerships with races that drive people into running stores, and to meet as a community and show up in running stores in a very, lightweight manner, not pushing people to try. Well, yeah, pushing people to try shoes, not pushing people to buy shoes. Right. And when you get people into those doors, you can get them into the right shoe. When you get them into the right shoe, they run happy and healthy, and that contributes to not just the growth of these companies, but the growth of the sport, which is what I make media, because I want people to be excited about running, and I want more people to find running. And that's what it's all about for me, because it's done so much for me. And I love telling the stories of people enabling that to happen. So yeah, totally agree with you that it's so much better to go into a running store. Maybe that's why here in the US, like Fleet Feet has such a poor e-commerce experience, and they could make tons more money if they had a better e-commerce experience. But perhaps they realize, perhaps it's by design, that they realize that their business is best when people are showing up in store.
Honestly, I'm a boomer, but I'm not going to buy even a tight on the internet, because I need to fit. Yeah. Try to understand if I have to buy running shoes that need to fit me, and I need to be with them for 10 miles a day, and every single day I do no, there's no way.
Totally agree. My last question, we just saw the end of the Olympics in Italy. The Paralympics are beginning soon. We're 2 years out from the Summer Games in LA. What predictions do you have for the next couple of years?
It would be very interesting couple of years. LA Olympic Games will be a very important moment for athletics. There is one mistake that what athletics is doing is putting another event this year, that the Ultimate Championship. So there is another big event inside Asia. So that has missed focus by the athletes, because we will have, I think, a very interesting young athletes that is coming with the right age at LA. We have a so strong, so big number of big talent today that is still 20, 21, 22, 23. And I can see them, how they improve. They can be the perfect age at LA. LA will be, I think, for athletics, a very important moment where we will see strong result from long distance to the sprint and everything. So we have now athletes almost mature to change a little bit the performance to compare with the Paris. Paris was good, but we still missed some results, like on the sprinter. We still missed some results like 20 years ago. We have. So I think LA will be very interesting. We are working on that. We are working to bring beside our jumper that is quite strong to work on the mid-distance runner. We are focusing on the US kids because they are doing very well over there. So congratulations, I think, to the system that you have, because very impressive the last 4 years. So congratulations for the coaches, the job you're doing in university or in high school with the young runner, because it's very impressive what US is doing now on mid-distance and long-distance runner. Very impressive.
It's going to be an exciting couple of years, and a very exciting Olympic Games coming up here in 2 years. Gelindo, this has been a blast. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience today?
Just a message from my side. Be a passionate running, but understanding what means running for the runners. It doesn't matter the level of runners. When I talk about product, when you look at the product, keep in mind that, like we say at the beginning, the performance is very important. By the end of the story, the daily works is even much more important. So be sure that the selection you're doing and speak with the people that can help you is having product that can protect you during the easy training, and at the same time a product that can make you run fast. That is very important. Do not forget, having a good training period is better than have a bad training period and have a very fast running shoes, because the shoes will not run by himself.
I love that. Really appreciate the chat today, and excited to share this one.
Okay. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Long Run Labs. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's building something of their own. We'll be back next Tuesday with more stories at the intersection of endurance and entrepreneurship from the people shaping the outdoor industry in ways big and small. Until then, keep showing up, keep asking questions, and we'll see you out there. This show is produced by Dylan Delaney of Delaney Video LLC, with musical composition by Brian Walters of Single Track Sound, and managed overall by Emily Holland of Wild Poppy Creative.